Best of r/entitled parents episode 102. Subscribe for edit videos daily. I never thought I would have to make this. Here's some background. I have moved out of parents' house and am in the older region. We live very far away for each other for work purposes. A few days ago I came down for a visit and everything seemed normal. Now since we live far away from each other I would have to spend a few nights with them. So we got my old bedroom ready and I spent my first night. Now this is where it gets bad. My pops had been looking for this iPad to play a stupid game on. I knew I had the iPad but kept quiet because I had paid for it and needed it for work so I wouldn't get fired for taking these few days away. I just played along like I didn't know where it was. In the middle of the night I just woke up. I didn't know why, I just did. Which is not normal for me. I decided to have a bit of a look around. I walked out to see my mother at my door. I asked her what the fuck she was doing and she said something woke her up and she just wanted to check up on me. She went back downstairs and I didn't think much about it. The next morning I got up and dressed and went downstairs to have breakfast. My little brother was watching something in his room and I decided to say good morning to him. We both got caught up in what he was watching, Pokemon. I snapped out of it to go find some food. My mom was not in the kitchen so I thought she had already left to go run some errands, but then I heard footsteps upstairs. I went up to go check it out when I see my mom coming out of my room with the iPad. The next scene went like this. Mom, hey, I am me. What the hell are you doing in my room? Mom, Dad said he was looking for this iPad and I said I thought I knew where it was. Me, yes, I have it and I've bought and paid for it. I have to use it for work. Mom, you do not need this for work. You are off. Me, no. If I took off work I wouldn't have been fired. I'm just working from here. Mom, you can't work over the internet. She proceeds to go downstairs and give it to my dad so he can download his game. I'm pissed off by this point and go downstairs to confront them again. When my mom walks out and says, "Who is Lyubov, red heart suit, in your contacts?" I'm Russian and that means love. This bitch not only took my stuff but she went through my phone. She went through me and my boyfriend's texts. Everything. I'm in a plane flying home now. With both iPad and a new password in my phone. Thank you. Next. Every time I do something a little insignificant bad thing my dad does the same thing. Take my iPhone away. There are no other punishments, just that. Every time I do something a very small bad thing he sees it as opportunity to take my iPhone away, meaning me having no fun, and he knows this. My dad was born in the 50s so he has an annoying dislike that all people his generation have against iPhones. Also my parents think that iPhones give off a radiation that is bad for the body. If that was true then I would be dead. Another thing is that sometimes they would say that I had enough iPhone for a day and they have a rule of no iPhones in the morning and on Tuesday, Thursday and on Sunday. All things to try to reduce my time on my iPhone. I think that when children can think for themselves and can be independent they should have the right to choose when and for how long they want to be on their iPhones. Thank you. Next. So years ago I was in a swimming class with a group of other kids. I was always trying too hard to be the fastest in class. I wanted to be the best. I know. I was a bit of a pain in the ass, but I was neglected of any emotional support and needed the attention. So I'd swim hard and would lap the other kids. There was this one girl in my class and she did not like me finishing before her. It was typical little kid drama, kicking each other in the water, until she started pushing and holding me under and pulling me back in when I was trying to climb out, once actually using me like a ladder to climb out once she'd dragged me under. I told on her about these things and the instructor told her off. I didn't complain about the kicking because I'd kicked her back and that wasn't a big deal to me. The other stuff was over the line though. Week after week this kid carried on kicking me, so I kicked her back. She always started it. I just wanted to swim but she would always kick me. I'm sure once or twice we kicked each other by accident and set each other off. I know I more than likely did. We all did. If it was an accident, like when we were doing breaststroke, we all let it slide. If it was on purpose, like doing front crawl, I was the kind of kid who didn't start it, but I sure as hell hit back. Well, it turns out she was telling half the story to her mother. The swim instructor knew what was up and told her to knock it off and for me to stop kicking her back. It calmed it down but it didn't stop it. After one class, I walked into the changing room only to have this girl's mother come in. She pushed me into a corner. I'm cold, wet, in my swimming costume, and she kept poking me in the chest hard, threatening me, telling me to leave her kid alone or else. I told her. She kicked me first, held me under the water and kept dragging me back in, and she claimed none of these things had ever happened, that I was a bad kid and was bullying hers. She got right in my face and terrified me. She eventually stormed out, leaving me terrified. I ended up hiding in a cubicle, refusing to come out. Eventually my mum came and found me, got the story out of me, and she was pissed. Took her a while because I was terrified of her and she was very rarely ever in my corner or believed me. The first time ever she found the instructor and we had a talk. She confirmed my story, that I was just kicking back, that it wasn't a big deal, but the other stuff that girl had done had actually happened and she wasn't happy. All I know is that the next week, the mum and daughter weren't there. Another kid had taken her place in our group. The best part, a few years later me and the girl end up in the same school. We remembered each other, and after a few years, towards the end of school, we were quite friendly towards each other. We laughed about the stupid pool stuff. Turns out her mum was encouraging her to be like that because she wanted her to be the fastest. In the final weeks of school, she helped me find a dress so I could go to the leavers ball after I had begged every female in our sixth form for help. She was actually a nice person. But it was hard for me to have friends back then due to my circumstances, so we never stayed in contact and I was never allowed to see anyone outside of school. I sneaked off and got in trouble when I got that dress. Got home around 4:30, half an hour after curfew. We went on an afternoon when we only had one class after lunch. Thank you. Next. So I have a lot of stories about this woman, but today I'm going to focus on the 6 months she lived with us. Little backstory. My husband and I got pregnant very early on in our relationship. I told him he wasn't allowed to propose while I was pregnant because I wanted to make sure he was marrying me, not the baby. He ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me. We bought a house, had our son, then got engaged. My mill hasn't had a stable job since my husband was in middle school, lives off the government, has somehow assumed responsibility of several of her friends' children, plus her other grandchild. She has diabetes she doesn't manage, which resulted in her losing most of her toes on her right foot. 3 months before the wedding, mill, 10-year niece, and 3-year nephew, no actual relation, but we'll say nephew for simplicity, got kicked out of the house they were staying at and showed up at our door. We live in a 3-bed, 1-bath house, not very big. Still, we made it work until they found another place. I gave the mill the spare room and put all 3 kids in a room together. Of course, at the same time she moved in with us, the government assistance she had been receiving was cut off. Long story for another day. So her only assistance financially to us were her food stamps and watching our son. I picked up a second job and my husband picked up extra hours. During her time with us she treated my husband's car like it was a community car. Despite us telling her we don't want smoke in our house or cars, she was caught several times breaking those rules. My tip money would disappear from my purse. My nice camera disappeared. She would sell part of her food stamps and instead of doing anything productive, it would go towards cigarettes or weird random knickknacks she tried to display in our house. I said hell no, they were awful. As I said, this was before our wedding. She kept offering to throw me a bridal shower, which I declined knowing she couldn't afford it and I hate her friends. All I asked was she buy her own dress. 2 weeks before the wedding, when no dress was bought, I used a gift card from my actual bridal shower and took her shopping. She hated everything, complained the shop was too expensive and ugly and wanted to go somewhere else again. I was using a gift card. The whole experience was awful. We finally settled on a floral dress she didn't hate. The day of the wedding she only had to get herself and the nephew ready. We left to her my husband's car. Best man drove him. She was late to the wedding and delayed the whole service. We wanted to be able to get a hold of her since she had our son during the day, so we got her an older iPhone on our plan. She hated it and let the nephew destroy it. After 6 months she finally left. We assumed responsibility of the niece. We still have contact with her, but it's much more limited and we are much stricter with favors for her. Anytime my husband asks if I still love him, I reminded him if I was ever going to leave it would have been during those hard months. My husband is an amazing, hard-working man, and the best father I could ask for my son. Thank you. Next. I have a lot of entitled parents in my life, so I'll try to post more soon. Here is the most recent one. My mother started a company with her brother about a year ago. It started off slow, but is starting to take off. They recently got a new building right down the street from their house. Her plan is to have the whole family work for her. Emphasis on her plan. She has often talked about my husband and I quitting our jobs to come join the company. It's located 45 minutes from us and we both love our jobs. I briefly entertained the idea of working part-time with her, part-time at my current job, but apparently that wouldn't work for her. It has to be all or nothing. Cool, nothing it is. My younger brother, 18, and sister, 16, have unfortunately been sucked in. They both are also in ballet together and have to drive over an hour to get to the class Monday, Thursday. My brother has his own car and drives there and back. A typical day for them is work from 7 am 3 pm, drive the hour to class, dance for several hours, get home around 10 pm, wash, rinse, repeat. My mother is constantly on them for not doing enough chores around the house during the week and not putting in more hours at work, constantly trying to get them to quit dance. She was the one who got them started in the first place, and threatening to fire them for leaving early every day even though their schedule was agreed upon to accommodate their dance schedule. Despite the fact my brother goes above and beyond at work, she is denying him a raise unless he quits. One day he finished all his work, plus a few side projects around noon one day and decided to go home and rest before dance, something he never does, and got cussed out for it and called lazy for not jumping in to take over other employees' work in order to fill a full work day. When the company was still in its early stages, it wasn't uncommon for them to go weeks without payment while all the other workers still got paid. They have lent my mother money when things were tight. She is now talking about charging each of them $500 rent to live at home to make up for the fact they don't do anything around the house. Keep in mind my sister is only 16. Another important note. I have another brother. He is 20. Has only worked 2 weeks his entire life and the most he contributes to the house is watching the dogs. He is on the spectrum, but not far on it. He is still a very capable person, but my parents babied him his whole life so he settled into laziness. We were all homeschooled, so he has never been pushed. He sits at home all day on his computer eating junk food. I suggested to my siblings they never leave their rooms, buy their own food, and use paper plates. I know it won't actually stop her from complaining, but it'll at least give them a leg in the argument. My stepdad is in the military and currently out of state. Things get really bad every time he leaves. I have a theory he signs up for missions just to escape her. He is amazing and helps buffer things by taking on most of her crazy when he is home. TLDR, mother wants kids to quit their hobby to spend more time at work. Edit. When talking about my siblings to outsiders she brags like she is mother of the year, going on about their amazing dance skills and how hard they are working. Behind the scenes they get cussed out daily. Thank you. Next. Disclaimer. This story is in no way intended to criticize marijuana or the people who smoke it. Cast. Me. Myself. EM. Our dreaded entitled mother. CB. Cute boy. SF. Stepfather. SU. Step uncle. M. My mom. Love you mom. 3. So, this story happened last summer. My stepfather, SF, got invited to a family BBQ that was being hosted by his brother, SU, and me and my mom, M, decided to tag along. We got there without incident and for the first hour or so, everyone was having a pretty great time. Food was good, the weather was great, everyone was laughing. Typical family BBQ. About 2 hours into the party, SF's daughter, EM, arrives with her son, CB, who was about 3 when this went down. Almost as soon as she arrived, she set CB loose into the yard so he could play and instantly started complaining to the other guests about how difficult it was to get there, how expensive gas money was, how difficult CB was being, etc. Putting aside the fact that she came to the party out of the blue, with no indication that she wanted to come, and how she was bringing everyone down with her complaints. The main issue of the situation was that she just let CB roam around this yard unattended. Now this yard is huge, with a very deep slope that leads to a busy street and a small hill towards the back of the property that leads to the woods, with a pretty deep creek. On top of that, CB is autistic, with a few other special needs to boot, so he tends to wander off and get lost a lot. Needless to say, this whole situation was making me very nervous. So as we were talking by the grill, I was constantly looking over my shoulder to see just where CB was, and what he was doing. After a few minutes however, EM spoke up. EM, OP, let him play on his own. He doesn't need you breathing down his neck. Me, I'm just worried that he might get hurt, or go a little too far into the woods. EM, what are you, a child expert? You don't have any children of your own. What would you know about any of this? M, well, OP, is studying in college to work with children. EM, you are? Me, yeah, I want to get my degree in child developmental psychotherapy. After I said that, EM went silent for a bit and the conversation ended there. About 20 minutes later, CB came running up to us, and told us he had to go potty. EM then suggested that I should show him where it was, because I had been to SU's house more than she had. I thought it was a bit odd, but I didn't mind, because I love CB, and I am always happy to help him out. So we go inside and I help him get to the toilet, and wash his hands, no problem. However, by the time we came back out, both EM and her car were gone. I quickly asked EM where she went, but she had no idea. So I'm rushing around this party, asking pretty much everyone there if they know where EM drove off to, which was a resound no from everyone. At this point SF, SU, and M are all trying to contact EM. CB is slowly getting more and more upset because he doesn't know where his mother is. I try to calm him down, telling him it's just gonna be me and him chilling for a while until his mother came back. He quickly perked up and started to play around with a few toys laying around for the kids to play with. 4 hours pass, before EM comes back to the party. CB runs up to her and gives her a hug, basically the only person happy to see her right now. That's when SF and SU storm up to her and start questioning her. SF, where the hell were you? CB was worried sick. EM, I'm a grown adult. I don't have to tell you where I am every 5 seconds. Chill out. SF, you were gone for 4 hours, without telling us where you were going or when you would be back. You can't do that. EM, my name is here, so I can. SU, what are you talking about? EM, she's majoring in child whatever in college. Isn't her future job to watch kids all day? Me, that doesn't mean you can abandon your son. At this point I knew I had called upon the cursed wrath of the entitled parent. EM, how dare you? I did not abandon him. I came back. What? I can't have fun anymore. He's a good boy. You should feel honored to care for him. I go to smoke weed one time and now you are all on my case like I am a bad mother. You don't even have children, so how would you know? SU, you were smoking weed? M, does smoking weed take that long? I don't think EM intended for anyone to know that she was smoking weed, because after she realized that she outed herself to everyone, she grabbed CB and quickly drove off the property. I haven't heard from EM since then. SF has told me that she has sent him a ton of text messages about how I'm a terrible person, and how I should cut ties with his side of the family. Honestly, I'm not that concerned about her trash talking. As selfish as this may sound, I'm more upset over the fact that instead of enjoying the rest of the party, I had to spend 4 hours babysitting while trying to track down EM. But hey, karma I guess. Thank you. Next. So, I never thought I would have a story to post here, but I just got one now. So recently I got diagnosed with aplastic anemia and stomach cancer. I'm having a ball right now. I had to go to the hospital to get basically all my blood drained from my body, and my plasma separated. Again super fun. Anyway, I got that done recently and I have been taking Xyloda, chemo pills. I'm a bald 16-year-old. Since I'm a minor, I go to a children's hospital in my state. It's in the richer area, so I deal with people giving me looks all the time. I don't care about that. I just got my blood drained so I could get a blood transfusion. I asked the nicest nurse ever to wheel me into the waiting room so my mom could come pick me up and I could go home and rest. Now, I was slurring my words, barely having my eyes open, and was pale as fuck. Now pair that with my baldness and not being able to walk. I didn't look well. The nurse wheeled me in, and sat me in one of the chairs. It was packed that day and there was only one chair next to me that was empty. So I'm just sleeping when this lady comes up and shakes me. I barely look up at her. This Karen had her 8-year-old child with her. Karen asked me to get up so she and her child can sit together. I slur my words and try to tell her I can't physically move. She continues to pester me, then huffs and walks away. This bitch is glaring at me while she walks around trying to get another seat. She can't find one so she comes back to me. All the while her child is screaming for her mom's phone so she can play a game. Once she gets to me, she starts asking in a more demanding tone and leaning over me. I can't even move so I try to lean my weight in the opposite way because this cunt was nose to nose with me. After she sees I'm still not moving she starts screaming at the top of her lungs. The best part about it, I passed out. She thought I was ignoring her. She slaps me to wake me up, which I didn't, and gets escorted out by the nice nurse. The ironic thing too is her child wasn't sick. She was just constipated. The nurse told me as she wheeled me out to my mom. Again, this lady took her 8-year-old child to a children's hospital because it was constipated. What a fucking idiot. I'm fucking pressing charges. I bet Karen's business will love when they see her slapping a passes out minor that has cancer. I'm going to burn this bitch alive. Just thought this belonged here. Edit. A lot of you guys are correct. I don't know the laws when it comes to press charges or HIPAA. For those with the HIPAA and nice nurse concerns, that's just what she told me. I don't know nothing else about the mom or the kid. I hope the hospital got record of her name when she went to get her child treated. For the US lawyers on Reddit, I cannot press charges. I can only tell the police, who goes it to the door. It will be out of my hands. But for those on Reddit who are obviously masters at US law and medical law, and have studied for years, all I can say is I've never been in this situation before. I will hopefully go to the station or maybe they will send someone out. Again, don't know the law. My mom will be mainly handling this, because again I am a minor. Oh, and I was at a children's hospital that specifically specializes in cancer, just because some people are getting it confused. On a different note, thank you guys for hoping that I'll get better. I'm confident I will overcome this. I'm about to take my final round of chemo, so wish me luck.